Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Pigskin Addicts back again with another video. So without further ado, let's jump right into today's topic. Now, what you're looking at on your screen is pretty much a press clipping, right? It's from Bleacher Report. This has the date circled around it, March 15, 2019. This is obviously a dated report. This is from about 3.5 years ago. And basically, this is just a headline showing that Tom Telesco had been extended by the Chargers, right? This was after a pretty successful 2018 season, where the Chargers did make the playoffs, and they did have a playoff win against a rookie Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. This was the press clipping that showed the Chargers were happy with Tom Telesco. They were happy with what he put out there on the field. They were happy with the results back at that point, and they extended him for 4 more years. So I think this is one of the bigger kind of, elephants in the room, right? As far as Tom Telesco's extension goes, and whether or not he'll be back next year. I think this right here paints the clear picture that Tom Telesco will not be back. Now, ever since that press clipping was made, right, ever since the story was dropped on Bleacher Report back in 2019, right, the Chargers have not seen the playoffs since then, right? This is the biggest thing that I think is, kind of hanging over the head of Tom Telesco, and is hanging over the head of Brandon Staley as well, too, because Brandon Staley is a Tom Telesco hire. So when you look at movement in the organization, right, and when I come on here and I say that I think it's going to happen, this is why. This is the biggest elephant in the room, right? Basically getting down to the nitty gritty, right? If Tom Telesco was not extended, right, this season, because you see this is from March 2019, right? So this is the offseason of the 2018 season, right? So 2018 going into the 2019 season. This was the offseason, right? In March, the Chargers, obviously, they really didn't waste a lot of time, right? From, the Super Bowl ending in February to, negotiating for a month and giving him an extension, a 4-year extension at the time, right? They didn't waste any time. The Spanos family was satisfied with the job that Tom Telesco was doing. Now, you fast forward this to 4 years, right? This past March went by, no Tom Telesco extension. So what does this tell you, right? What should this tell you as a fan? This should tell you that this year was pretty much a playoff or bust year for Tom Telesco, right? So this is why. This is the biggest nugget, and this is the biggest fact that is out there, right? That you can say that Tom Telesco won't be back, right? This is why I would be willing to bet a pretty good amount of money that Tom Telesco will not be back as the GM of the Chargers, because if there's no extension in place, and if there's no talks of an extension in place, we're already 12 games through the season. There's only 5 more games left. If the Chargers do not qualify for the playoffs, I don't think, contract extension talks will be had. I think Tom Telesco will be done. Now, when you look at a possible departure from Tom Telesco, right? What does this mean for the organization, right? This means that there is going to be somebody in place. The Chargers already have somebody in mind. The Spanos family already has somebody in mind. And they're going to have to move on it pretty quickly, right? Because right after the season ends, right, whether you qualify for the playoffs or not, you have to start looking towards the draft. You have to start looking towards free agency, and you're going to need somebody in place, right, to handle those things and to kind of shepherd those things along, right? You want to be able to draft the best players that you can, right? You want to be able to hit on whatever free agents you can possibly get, right? I know the Chargers are, pretty capped out as far as the salary cap goes, but they're still going to have a little bit of flexibility to maybe sign a player here or there. So they are going to have to, really go into this thing all hands on deck, especially if Tom Telesco is out, if he's on his way out. So this lets me know that they might have somebody else in mind. Now, who that person is, I don't know. I have been championing for Will McClay, right? Vice president of, president of player personnel for the Cowboys. That's who I have been, championing and really hoping for, but we don't know. We will see. I just think that it is very interesting right now, as they say down south, this nut cutting time, right? This is a very interesting time right now for the Chargers. This season has not went as well as everybody has wanted it to, right? Depending on who you talk to, right, this has been either a disaster or, a lucky season, right? Lucky to be 6-6, right? Just depending on whatever Charger fan you talk to. I'm more in the disaster category just based off of the talent and all the money that the Chargers spent in the offseason. But to getting back to the front office, getting back to whoever the GM might be next year, there's implications all around. There it really is for the entire franchise, right? Typically, right, in NFL circles, anytime a team hires a new GM, right, the GM, whoever the incoming GM is, normally wants to make a coaching hire that they approve, right? They normally don't stick with the previous administration's coaching hire, right? It happens sometimes, but very rarely is that ever a successful situation, right? Because normally the incoming GM has a completely different philosophy, a completely different vision for the team than the previous GM, and if the coach is still around, right, the coach is still an extension of the previous GM's vision, still an extension of the previous GM's maybe liability as well too. So typically new GMs want to hire their guys, right? This is why I think Brandon Staley is on the hot seat. I don't think that he has any job security by any stretch of the imagination, and I get that the Spanos family normally doesn't fire coaches early, but I don't think they will get in the way of a new GM. I honestly don't think that. I think a new GM is going to have reign to be able to hire whoever he wants, especially if Brandon Staley is not able to get this team to the playoffs. So this is going to be a very interesting, a very fluid situation. These last 5 games, there's going to be a lot of storylines on the field, but I think you can start looking at the front office. You can start looking at the executive positions of the Chargers, and you can start looking at some of the stories that are going to be there because things are not clear right now. This is not an ideal situation for really any franchise to be in, right? Especially if you have playoff hopes, right? If you have hopes to become a perennial playoff team, a perennial contender, this is not a great position to be in, right? And I have not been a fan of Tom Telesco. I went over, his woes as a general manager, right? 10 years, 2 playoff appearances. Obviously, it's not good enough. We know this and we get this. And by all, the comments that I read under all of my videos, I know a lot of you guys are not, really fond of Tom Telesco either. But this, his dismissal could really cause chaos, especially if the organization is not prepared for it, right? If they are scrambling to try to put somebody in place, for the GM role, or if maybe they have somebody who is going to, get the Chargers through the draft, maybe they have somebody who's going to get them through free agency and then maybe try to snag a permanent GM. I don't know. I just hope that the Chargers are prepared for this because if they are not prepared, this can be a chaotic situation, right? The Chargers obviously need more help. They need more help. They need more depth. They need to hit on draft picks, and they need to make more quality signings in free agency, right? The ones that they can afford. So this is going to be a very, very interesting situation this offseason. If you thought last offseason was interesting, this offseason is going to be a whirlwind. This is going to be crazy. And again, everything points to Tom Telesco not coming back. Everything points to it. I don't think, the Chargers are going to start engaging on contract negotiations with him if the team doesn't make the playoffs. I honestly don't think that. So again, what are the plans, right? What are the plans going forward? What is the contingency plan? And knowing the Spanos family, knowing how unprepared this ownership group is, it would not be a stretch to say that there might be some chaos this offseason. So it will be very interesting to see how much of it gets out, right? I want to see how much of it gets out. I want to see how much of the national media, is able to cover some of these stories because there are going to be stories. There are going to be, some tea leaves here and there, and I'm going to be very interested in seeing how this thing plays out. I'm obviously going to be on here covering it. I'm going to be going live a lot. I'll be making a lot of videos, but I think right now, even with 5 games left, this is something to think about. The front office situation is not clear at all right now. And that obviously trickles down to the coaching situation as well, too. So this is something that people should think about, right? It's not just about the play on the field, right? Especially with, a playoff berth not being clear right now. That's not what the Chargers are really, in tow for right now. They're not really in line for a playoff berth unless something changes on the field. And unless they make a complete turnaround in these last 5 games, which is highly unlikely, still possible, but it's unlikely. Unless something really turns around, then this situation can be very chaotic. So everybody should look out for that. Keep an eye out for that. I was, been doing research over the past few days, and I happened to come across this press clipping, and I thought that this was interesting, right? Especially the date from it, and Tom Telesco really being a lame duck GM at this point right now. It's going to be interesting. Going to be interesting to see how this thing plays out. I can't wait. I'm hoping for the best, but everybody prepare for a lot of chaos, right? Strap your helmets on, put your seatbelts on, because it could be a bumpy ride this offseason. So that's all I got for this video, guys. Thank you guys so much for all of the support. I really appreciate it. Shout out to all my new subscribers. I really appreciate you guys. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing and hit that bell notification as well too. Don't forget to smash the like button on the way out as well too. It really helps me with the algorithm. But that's all I got for this one. I will be back again tomorrow with more content. And until next time.